Hi, this is the Democratic Labour Law Labour Report. Thank you for coming in. This is Sunday the 1st of August 2021 and thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm happy if people will distribute this podcast. I'd be very happy if you could send it to family, friends and business associates. Today I'd like to discuss a couple of issues. One of them obviously is that the wage agreement with the public service has been finally signed after months and months of acrimonious negotiations. That's interesting. Two is that unemployment's not going to go away, and I am personally supporting the basic income grant. Obviously it's a problem with the government in that it's unaffordable and it's got to be properly structured. The Democratic Alliance is having a very careful look at it, and the Democratic Alliance are pragmatists, and we know that we're not going to have naught unemployment, and we're always going to have a problem with poverty, and we need to tackle it. Government doesn't seem to want to do this for some reason either, but the poor don't seem to count when it comes to government. And then finally I want to talk about foreign workers, in particular the fact that it's so difficult to get permits for foreign workers, and what's this issue about bringing in Cuban workers. So thank you for tuning in today. It's Michael Bagram. I am the Democratic Alliance Labour spokesperson, Deputy Shadow Minister for Labour, Employment and Labour, and thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. It's Sunday the 1st of August 2021. The big issue, of course, is the fact that we were faced with the possible mother of all strikes, the civil servants. This has been going on for at least 4 months. It's been very, very acrimonious. I've been watching it very carefully. I'm keeping a careful eye on it. There was an offer eventually. They were offering naught. Government was offering naught. They can't afford it. The government has gone basically bankrupt. Every single department is on its hands and knees. All the parastatals, all the state-owned enterprises, they're all bankrupt, the whole lot. And eventually they then came forward and said, all right, we will give a 1.5% pay increase. Now they can't afford that, but they've offered it again. I mean, it's stupendous that they're doing something like this, but there you are. It looks like they've signed this agreement. Most of the unions have said yes, not all. And most of them have said this is a temporary measure. They're obviously going to look for a fight in the future. The real problem, of course, that we've got, the taxpayers of South Africa, is that government still can't afford that. You will recall in 2019, a 3-year agreement was entered into the government and it was shot down. And in the 3rd year, they never paid. So government actually reneged on an offer they made, which was then accepted, and then they reneged on it on the basis of some spurious technicality, and also they argued in court it was unaffordable. Will they do it again? Who knows? I think we're dealing with some very, very duplicitous individuals in the government who strike deals with trade unions purely to get their support in elections. We've got a local election coming up, and then when that election's finished and they've had the support, they then renege on the agreement, which is exactly what they did in the previous one. It's sad, but that's what they did. So let's watch this with a beady eye. I'll keep a lookout on it. What we do know also is another issue altogether is being debated now. It's the big payments, the basic income grants. Again, there's been a lot of pressure for a basic income grant in South Africa. Now we have the payment that the President has just announced again has been extended of the 350 Rand. It's not a handsome amount, and again they can't afford it, but at least they've promised to roll it out. The problem is that through the SASSA channels it's also very dysfunctional. No more dysfunctional than the UIF, but just as dysfunctional. I think that's synonymous with our government, dysfunction. But then of course we're not living in Alice in Wonderland. We're living in a real world, and people are suffering every time we see government making a promise, going to roll it out, and then somehow it doesn't roll out. So we're seeing that now even with the 350 Rand. It's very sad, but we're seeing it then. But now with this basic income grant, the Minister of Finance is saying it's not affordable, but he's getting pushed. And quite frankly, the Democratic Alliance is saying we need to do something because unemployment's not going to go away. We're at 50% now. It seems to be growing bigger. It's not going to go away. So we've got to somehow make some sort of deal and put aside some money for the poor of the country. And it seems to be the only real party pushing for somehow to be a structured payment through to the poor who are looking for jobs, can't find jobs, can't get it through the UIF because they're not in employment. There must be another way, and the Democratic Alliance is putting its best minds to this. Not me, but people within the social security sector within the Democratic Alliance. If we were in government as the Democratic Alliance, we would have sorted something out already and made sure we could afford it. Obviously, at the current government, we're seeing much more plundering and looting in government than you saw in the streets of KwaZulu-Natal. So that would tell you a thing or two. I then want to get to another issue, a burning issue, and it's been bothering me for months now, and I've fought this problem. The issue is that it's very difficult to get work permits for foreign nationals. Now you can understand at first blush what this means. It means that if a foreign national is coming in to find a job, you don't want to give it to the foreign national because you want to have the South African citizen to get the job rather, and I understand that fully. And the Democratic Alliance is fully behind that. But there are special circumstances. When you're bringing in an individual with a special skill that you can't find here, a specialist skill that you can't find here, then you want the economy to grow. And so you've got to think about this very carefully before you say no to a work permit for an individual who's coming in. Now, I'm dealing with some companies who are bringing in people, there's no qualification here, and they've guaranteed that with every individual they bring in with that specialist skill, they'll employ 5 South Africans. So they'll create 6 jobs, 5 for South Africans, 1 for the foreign national, and at the same time, they've promised to at least train the 5 who are working with the foreign national to at least get at least 1 or 2 of them eventually fully qualified to take over that position. Now that's the best of both worlds. You're creating the jobs and you're training. And of course, all these people that are earning will be paying income tax and will be buying food and housing, clothing, cars, etc., etc. So it gets the economy going. So no one can argue with that. And the department can't argue with me when I say it doesn't make sense that you're not giving the work permit. And they're still being difficult about that. They're still, to me, saying, look, we've got to look into it, we've got to think about it. It's incredibly frustrating, not only for me, but obviously for the individual that has applied for the post and got it, but then also for the company who have just said, well, then if you're not going to give us that person, we can't create the jobs. And so we have a lose-lose situation. And we'll fight that. I'm not going to let go. I'm fighting it all the time. But on the other side of the coin, let's just think of this one, and you'll laugh when you hear it. But they brought in Cuban employees into South Africa for jobs that exist in South Africa, but we have qualified people for those jobs. Let's just take the medical profession. Every year we read, you open the newspapers or you listen to radio and you watch television and you read about doctors who are newly qualified who can't find posts. They have to work for the government, they have to pass certain hurdles. Same with pharmacists, the same with nurses. I can go through the whole medical profession. And they can't find these jobs, and some of these people sit around for months waiting. I know the desperation that's happened in my own household, where people are qualified in the medical profession and waiting to get a posting, desperately waiting. It affected me directly. Now at the same time, you have government bringing in these Cubans who are supposedly qualified, one hopes they are, to come in as doctors and nurses, etc., and to work. Now, of course, I have to ask the question, and it has been asked by the Democratic Alliance, how much are they getting paid? Where are the work permits? Are they getting the same work permits that the Guptas got? Is it the same situation? Why are they choosing them? What is going on? Is there something duplicitous? Yes, there is. I know that the chief whip of the DA has especially put in a question and has now applied to see these papers. The government is holding it back. They're saying, no, they're not going to let anyone see these papers. Now, how duplicitous is that? How shocking when you have our own people desperate for the jobs, highly qualified, ready to work, and you bring in Cubans who can't speak English or any one of our other 11 official languages, and they're paying fortunes. Now, I know that the government over the last 10 years has spent 1.4 billion rand on salaries for these Cubans over the last 10 years. So I'll leave you with that thought, that who are we dealing with here? Is it honest or dishonest? You work it out for yourself. It's Michael Bagram, Sunday the 1st of August 2021, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. I appreciate you listening.